Hello, welcome, my name is Bjorn, thank you for joining me today. And today we're going to continue to look at my Templar homebrew class for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and today we're going to be looking at the overall class features. So we're not going to be focusing on the specific subtypes, the archetypes of this class. We're instead going to be focusing on what every single archetype is going to get, what every Templar will have, even if they didn't select an archetype, which would make no sense, but whatever. So obviously we're going to start here at the Templar table. We can see all the features. I mentioned the spell slots in the last one, but in case people didn't want to watch the lore video, I'll go ahead and briefly go over that again. So as we can see here, for the spell slots, it's the exact same as the Paladin for your spell slots and spell level. I didn't want to overpower the Paladin with their spell casting ability. I felt in a way that would be wrong because the Paladin derives their abilities to cast spells, even though they're probably going to be using it for Divine Smite more than spell casting. I didn't want to overpower them at all with that, and it feels kind of right that this class, like they're learning it on their own. I feel like limiting them in some way, shape, or form is good too, because their archetypes are pretty nice. And I feel like overall everything is fairly balanced. I feel very weird about that because I didn't think on my first version that this would be balanced. But we'll see about that, huh? Alright, so to start here, we can see that, also sorry if the camera wobbles at all. I'm currently using 2 bar stools to get my laptop up to a spot that I can see my head. I'll maybe take a picture of that and show it in Discord. So we can see here of the features that they get. At first level, they gain a fighting style, and then they gain sacrificial right. We'll go into the specifics of each of those abilities as we go. Second level, they gain the spell casting, and then they gain the Templar's Path. Third level, they gain meditative restitution. That's going to aid their sacrificial right abilities. The ASIs are the exact same, so 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th level. Obviously, only the fighter gets more ASIs, but I didn't feel like adding any extra ASIs here. 5th level, they just get extra attack. I felt like with this class, so many of their features, I was going to specifically give extra attack to a certain archetype here and there. It didn't feel right in the end. I felt like it would be just better overall if I can just give them extra attack. It's nothing that's so broken, so overpowered. That comes down to their proficiencies, their weapons that they can use. Everything felt fine to me to just give them extra attack, because they can be kind of limited with the weapon choices that they get depending on the archetype they take, but it's still a pretty broad range that they can choose from. As well as the fact that they don't have too many spell slots, so it's not like they're going to want to just cast spells every round of combat, right? They're going to want to conserve those for things that are more important. So it makes sense that they just have extra attack. They gain a Templar's Path feature at 6th level, 8th ASI, and a Sacrificial Right improvement. That is key. I placed it at 8th level for very good reasons, as I'm sure people will realize. Templar Path, ASI, Templar Path, ASI, and then at 18th level, they gain the Zealous Conviction and Elder's Wisdom abilities. This is again an overall. ASI at 19th, and Bulwark of the Faithful at 20. So overall, I felt like the spacing of this, the class and the features was appropriate. Anything that they don't gain, they still have spell slots, or they gain a spell slot. So I mean, like here they gain an extra 2nd level, here they gain 2 3rd levels, here they gain a 4th, and then so on and so forth, an extra 4th, and then at 17th they gain their first 5th. So it feels fine to me. It feels balanced with. It doesn't feel like so front loaded. It feels like you're still gaining things start at the middle. It feels pretty nice. I think you'll agree with me once you see that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off right from the beginning here with the class features. So as a Templar, you gain the following features. For their hit dice, they gain a d8 per Templar level. They obviously start off with a d8 plus their Constitution modifier, and at higher levels, it's a d8 or 5 plus their Constitution modifier per Templar level after first level. So pretty straightforward. It's equivalent to a lot of other classes, but their hit dice, I didn't feel like increasing it too much or decreasing it too much, mostly because of the Sacrificial Right ability, most of which is like a big focus for this class. So D8 felt, as you'll soon realize, pretty balanced for what's about to come. As for their proficiencies, I've given them light and medium armor and shields. The reason why I'm not giving straight up heavy armor is because that's going to be relegated to archetypes and possible future archetypes. Light and medium armor will be enough for this class, I felt, especially having shields. For their weapons, they gain all simple weapons. They also gain short swords, long swords, great swords. whips, and flails. The thing with the swords is that I felt like maybe orders would want to train them with how proper sword technique or something like that. Any sort of thing. I wanted to give out a few martial weapons, but I didn't want to give out such a wide list of martial weapons. So, kind of reel them in a little bit. Other archetypes, again, will be gaining either all proficiency with all martial weapons, or select. It could be dependent. And whips and flails because I'm cruel and I kind of like that visual. For tools, they gain one musical instrument of choice. I like this mostly because, why not? It feels appropriate that the people of faith would, look to churches and temples and everywhere in the world. Like, people sing to their gods and all that shit. I'm going to say right now, I'm not religious, but there's some very beautiful songs that have come out of it. For their saving throws, I've given them the Constitution and Wisdom saving throws. I don't think anyone else has this combination. I could be wrong. I could be speaking completely out of my ass there, but I'm fairly certain these are the only guys that got that. The reason for Constitution and Wisdom is because this can be like their main it's their spellcasting ability, is everything. So it makes sense to give that to them, and it's kind of suited for them. Constitution, because I couldn't really think of giving them something else that would fit. Constitution feels right because these people are supposed to be devout and resilient in some way that they're able to, as you'll see here with the sacrificial rite, give up a portion of their vitality. So not much more to be said about that. As for the skills, though, as you can see, a long list of skills here. You could get to choose 2 from Arcana, Animal Handling, Athletics, Deception, History, Insight, Intimidation, Medicine, Nature, Persuasion, Religion, and Stealth. The reason for this is because I'm having a hard time with this. I'm considering just opening it up and being like, open the floodgate. Take whatever 2 skills you want. Because, again, the idea with these classes is that these people, they're not like the cleric, right, where they have a select few and there's many different gods that they can choose. There's many different gods that you can choose as your background, but then you have to fit into that order. And that order, maybe you've been from a childhood been learning about the arcane and religion, because the arcane holds knowledge of certain creatures of that sort and how to deal with them, and that's kind of like the path of the lore keeper, where you're learning about just knowledge and how can we benefit our order, right? So I kind of limited it here, but I felt like it's still pretty a broad range enough where you can be pretty specialized in. And also with the paths, you'll quickly, once we get into the paths, you'll see that it'll be interesting. You don't need to necessarily pick the 2 that you feel like you'll need right away. You'll be able to gain them later possibly, but that'll be for the archetype videos. And of course for the equipment, it's pretty standard list: chain, shirt, or leather, armor, light crossbow, and 20 bolts, longsword and a shield, or 2 weapons of choice that you're proficient with, a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or any simple weapon, a priest pack or an explorer's pack, and they gain a holy symbol. Pretty straightforward, easy. It's nothing out of balance there, nothing out of tune. And now finally, after all that basic bull, we're finally getting into some of their abilities here. We're going to start off with the sacrificial rite. Alright, so as we can see here, your touch can heal wounds at a price. You may sacrifice a number of your hit dice up to your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1, to use a bonus action to heal for the amount rolled of those sacrifice hit dice. This cannot be used to heal yourself. That is a for now thing. At 8th level, that'll change. So what does this mean? So what it means is that out of our pool of our hit dice that we have that we can expend on our short rest. So normally if you take a short rest, you use a hit dice, and all of a sudden, you're gaining those lost health back, right? And you get to add your Constitution modifier to that. With this, you're instead using a bonus action to use up one of those hit dice right now, up to your Wisdom modifier, to heal somebody else. You do not get to add your Constitution modifier to it. It would say so otherwise, and that'll be a later down feature. So the idea here is that you're sacrificing a part of your own vitality so that somebody else may live. Throughout many, many different world religions, sacrifice is a very big part of it. So, there's a lot to kind of unravel there if you really want to go in depth with my rationale behind it. But I feel like it's balanced in the sense that you're giving up something so that your other friends right now can heal, that they can survive. Like if they're making death saves, that's maybe when you're going to want to use this at such a low level, because that hit dice is very, very important to you. That's going to determine whether or not you're going to be able to keep going after a short rest. So, and the D8 is pretty powerful. That's essentially, that is a cure wounds right there. But the fact of it is the bonus action means you can bonus action and go in an attack. So there's some action economy there. And this is something that's going to get progressively better and better with you as you level, because you're going to gain more hit dice as you level. And I said you can use your hit dice. I didn't specify Templar hit dice. But the idea being is that if you multi-class into this or you multi-class out of it, I want you to be able to use hit dice across the spectrum. And that's a reason why this is kind of being held back with you can't use to heal yourself with this, because if you could use this to heal yourself with, a barbarian at level 19, he's going to look at that level 20 barbarian thing. It's like, oh, a little bit more strength and con, or do I want to heal myself as a bonus action every turn for a hell of a lot? So I've kind of reeled it in a little bit, and it feels fine to me that it's going to improve over time, and we'll see that in a little bit here. Fighting styles, they essentially get to choose one fighting style that they like at first level as well, and it's pretty much everything that the fighter gets, which I think is every single fighting style. So archery, defense, dueling, great weapon, protection, and 2-weapon fighting. Again, I need to let go of that, so stop shaking my camera. I'm trying to broaden how much the diverse. I'm trying to show the diversity of these people, that they're their own people, that maybe protection makes sense for them. Maybe they like, if you go down the Crusader archetype, you take the protection because that makes most sense, because there might be a phalanx or whatever it's called. So second level, you gain the Templar's paths. We'll go over each of those in its own video, and then we also gain the spell casting feature here. So with the spell casting, it's fairly similar. Again, it's similar to Paladin and Wizard at the same time. So we do gain a spell book. So everything that we have to cast is within that spell book. So it's very, very akin to a wizard. We have to either go out and seek the knowledge of how to cast Cure Wounds, or maybe that's gifted to us by our order. Wow. But so spellbook is given to you by your order, which will contain 3 spells that your order has deemed most fitting for your position. Your spellbook is the repository for your Templar spells. So you can go out, you can find spells. It interacts the exact same as the wizard spellbook would. So if you have a ritual spell in there, you can cast the ritual spell as a ritual. Take your 10 minutes or whatever it is. Bam. So I felt like that was fair. Because there's some powerful ritual spells out there that you can get. So spellcast, preparing and spell casting Templars, you're able to cast one of your. I need to change that. I was using the Templar. Sorry, I was using the Paladin spell list for a little bit. So if anyone ever sees Paladin in here, it's wrong. It's going to be a Templar spell list. You expend 1 spell slot. It's all very typical. I didn't want to change the baseline spell casting to something wild and crazy for this character. I wanted this character to more so focus on their features as opposed to the spells. But the Warden will change that up a little bit. So you get to prepare. It's the exact same as a Paladin. You prepare however many spells equal to your Wisdom modifier plus your Templar level minimum of 1 spell. The spell must be for a level of which you have spell slots. For example, if you're 5th level Templar and you have with a Charisma, you change that to Wisdom. 14, your list of prepared spells include blah 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 blah. It's all straightforward. It's all the typical. It's all the norm. Nothing's changed. The spell save DC equals 8 plus proficiency plus your wisdom modifier. Spell attack is your proficiency plus your wisdom modifier. Spell casting focus, you can use a holy symbol for your focus of your Templar spells. Learning first level spells and higher, exact same as the wizard. Yeah, straightforward, easy to understand. So, coming down to third level, we gain this ability called Meditative Restitution. So, it's very akin to, again, wizard kind of ability with their arcane recovery, except with this, you're able to take a short rest to meditate, to make a wisdom check to regain lost hit dice. The DC equals 8 plus the total number of your used hit dice. If passed, you regain half of the total lost hit dice, rounded up. You are not able to use these hit dice on this short rest or any you still have. So the idea being is that you're taking up your entire short rest to regain those lost hit dice that you use for your sacrificial rite. I didn't want it to be so punishing that, you're just expending these hit dice, then you have to take a long rest and you only regain half of those back, because the hit dice rules are still there. That's also part of the reason why I feel like it's balanced, because you're not getting all the hit dice back on a long rest. You should only be getting half back. I believe that's how the rules work. At least that's how it works with my games. So with this, at least you can take a short rest. You don't heal. You don't do anything besides, unless you have like a bard healing you there or a priest healing you there, and you regain up to half, rounded up, of those hit dice spent. So at third level, you say you've expended all 3. You go ahead and do this. You pass the DC 13 wisdom check, because 8 plus 3 equals 11. Who would have guessed? And so it's not a hard wisdom pass at first, that's for sure. But you regain 2 essentially hit dice because you're rounding up from 3. But there is going to be a point of no return with this that I'm sure people have already realized that is there on purpose. So 8 plus the total number of your used hit dice. So if, say, at level 20, you've used up all of your hit dice, even though there's other features with archetypes and etc. that are going to be able to get you to regain those hit dice through certain actions, you're going to pretty much not going to be able to make this save unless you have so the DC would be, for example, 8 plus the total number of hit dice used. So let's say you used up all 20 again. That's a DC of 28 on a wisdom check, not a wisdom save, a wisdom check. So unless you have a 20, what is it, a 26 wisdom? Yeah, you'd have to have a baseline of 26 wisdom and roll a 20, and then you'd regain half of those. So there's a point of no return where I really wanted to hammer that home, where you have to consider what you're doing. Is it worth this? Even at higher levels, is it worth me to not regain these hit dice right now? Even though, again, in archetypes and at later levels, there will be ways of regaining those hit dice as opposed to just this one feature. They will be listed out as appropriately. And then at 8th level, we do gain Sacrificial Rite Improvement. At 8th level, your Sacrificial Rite heal will now be able to affect yourself. However, it will only heal for half of the total amount rolled. In addition, each die will now purge 1 poison and cure 1 disease on that target. So essentially with this, it just became, it upgraded to the Paladin's hand of light or whatever ability it's called. Lay on hands. I can't remember. But you're able to cure 1 poison and 1 disease per hit die. But at the same time, it's still better because you're able to heal up to 8 instead of, your paladin level times 5 or whatever it is. So you're able to essentially roll more, which feels appropriate because we are giving up a hit dice for it, and it's a bonus action. So I mean, it's give and take. And also with the fact that we're able to now self-heal with this, I put this at 8th level because, again, I mentioned that I didn't want barbarians at level 1 to just have this ability to self-heal, even for half of the amount rolled. That's a lot of self-healing on a bonus action. It's a hell of a lot of self-healing at the higher levels, especially for a barbarian hit die. It would be a 1d12, not a 1d8. And then, of course, we go ahead and we get all the ASIs, we gain all the other class features, and we come on down to the Zealous Conviction. So starting at 18th level, when you roll initiative and have no more hit dice to spend, you will gain 4 hit dice. If these are not used during the same combat, they are lost. So the idea with this is that, I felt like by 18th level, if you've invested this much into this class, you've found a second wind. This is your second wind for that round of combat, and you're able to go in there, gain some of your zeal stacks if you're a crusader, which I'm sure doesn't make any sense right now, or gain some of the other benefits of your archetype, or just heal people and bring people back from near death. And so it felt right that they would be able to have this at this level. It feels, it's 4 hit dice. I felt like I was gonna go with 2, but I felt like that was a bit underwhelming. So I decided to go with 4 here because I felt like being generous, and it doesn't feel too broken, honestly. And then as well, once we start at 18th level, essentially if this, to skip over that little lore read there, for every 4 years that pass, your body ages only 1 year. So this goes back into the lore of it, where I feel like these people they're the ones who are running these temples, or orders that are actually upholding the orders. Can't believe I used the same word twice there, but so like while the paladin or cleric isn't there, they're in charge. And maybe in these larger orders in a big city, maybe there hasn't been a cleric for decades, for whatever long. And so these people are more like the custodians, the people who run it. And then once a cleric can come along, they can raise that cleric into a position where, they're able to actually lead, and then they take that place. And this also helps them pass on their wisdom, their knowledge. It's not as powerful, obviously, as the druid one. I didn't want it to be by any means. I originally had it for every 3 years that pass, your body only ages 1. I figured 4 would be a bit better. This is more really of a roleplay thing. It doesn't really come into effect many times in many games, unless you're playing in the same world. Maybe at some point, and say a character you're dies, you can maybe pick up this character again. It's smaller things. It's purely just for roleplay, really. And then, of course, once we come down to 20th level, we gain essentially our Archdruid form, because holy shit. So Bulwark of the Faithful, you found a deeper connection with your deity, and thus can call upon them for a short time. As an action beseeching your god, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. Your sacrificial right die costs no hit dice for the duration. Kind of crazy. Your sacrificial right self-healing equals the total and not the half. You can add your constitution modifier to each hit dice rolled. A lot of extra healing. that's for damn sure for a lot of people. And then also increase your AC by 4. The reason for AC increased by 4 is because I felt like this is a level 20 ability. They don't really have much else. I mean, most of these classes are going to be using light and medium armor. And an increase to the AC feels fine to me, especially because maybe this character, they're probably a bit squishy, or maybe they're not. I mean, it didn't feel too overpowered to me, but I could be wrong. The main key thing, though, with this is that once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, and you receive 2 levels of exhaustion due to not being used to channeling the full might of your god. So there is a cost to this as well. So I'm trying to keep that in theme with the sacrificial right, the Bulwark of the Faithful. Even though this is super, super powerful, you're only going to be able to do this so many times. And the reason why it's 2 instead of 1 is because you can only regain those exhaustion points after a long rest, and you only regain 1. So if you go ahead and use this one day, that's 2 levels of exhaustion. You sleep it off, you're at 1. Like, oh shit, I have to use this again today. All of a sudden you're at 3 levels of exhaustion. You sleep, you're at 2. You have to use it again. You're all of a sudden at 4 levels of exhaustion. So if you can't recuperate and deal with the harshness it does to your body, I'm missing a word right now. The brutalness, I don't know. Then eventually it'll just kill you. You can't do this forever. You can't keep going. You can't possess the power of your god, even a small fraction of it like this. So that's kind of like the lore idea and the role play of it. But the reason for no sacrificial right to hit dice for the duration, that's going to come into a lot of play with the archetypes. That is extraordinarily powerful. And I just wanted you to become essentially a heal bot. And there's pretty much no reason to go ahead and bonus action, maximum cast, dump a heal into somebody at level 20, or yourself. And I did want this to be something like an Archdruid feature that I already mentioned. I want them to feel like this level 20 investment was worth it, because Druid, there could be a lull period, but once you get that Archdruid, especially if you're a Moon Druid, very hard to kill you. You can still die off this pretty easily. Not as... Yeah, I would say the Archdruid is harder to kill than this. But, it feels right, because it allows different playstyles of either you're just going ham and healing and pumping all your spells into other healing or buffs or whatever, or maybe you're the tank of the group and you're just self-healing and you're taking all the damage, you're pulling all the threat. Maybe you're sacrificing yourself and just trying to give your team time to escape. There's any number of ways that you can utilize this. It's an impressive ability. I really like it. I think it's balanced as D&D is, because as we all know, nothing's really balanced in D&D. Everything's a little bit overpowered. And so it felt right that there'd be something a little bit overpowered here at the very end of this class. And so I'm going to leave that here. I'm losing my voice, but also, there's not much more I wanted to go over here. I might address a few other things later on. I might make another video, who knows. But this is already pretty long, and thank you for watching if you did. I hope that this answered some questions, gave you some insight into this class, maybe inspired you to play it, I hope, and go forth with it and have fun. Yeah, consider subscribing, liking, leaving a comment, all that jazz. It really helps out. Thank you so very much for everyone who does. Have a good one.